Thank you. More top stories now. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office says nothing about Edward Gifford's arrest contributed to his in-custody death. Now, right now, the Sheriff's Office is waiting for an autopsy. A grand jury will also review that death.
Governor Pillen signed a budget package into law. His office says the package cuts a nearly $630 million budget deficit down to zero. The budget also keeps about $900 million in the state's rainy day fund.
A deadline to escalate war in the Middle East is avoided. President Trump announcing he agreed to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for 2 weeks. Iran's Supreme National Security Council says they have accepted the ceasefire.
Omaha police are looking for the vandals who ransacked the historic Florence Depot Museum. Windows were shattered, walls spray painted, and artifacts destroyed. Officials estimate the damage at more than $20,000.
Plans for a new soccer stadium just north of Charles Schwab Field have been delayed. The council voted 5-2 to lay over a vote on TIF money for the stadium.